In April, the slaughter began. 800,000 Rwandans would be killed in just 100 days.
For all up and down this road that leads north from the border, there is madness and horror beyond telling, beyond belief.
Srebrenica in Bosnia, 8,000 husbands and sons slaughtered. It would be the largest massacre on European soil since the Holocaust.
Is that information of a possible shooting at sites on the cafeteria?
The suspect gunned down 3 people Sunday on the day before Passover. Witnesses say Miller was screaming anti-Semitic remarks after he was arrested.
I remember thinking when he was shooting everybody, what a coward. These people are defenseless.
And then he came into the library, shot everybody around me, then put a gun to my head and asked if we all wanted to die.
How many people? Can you see the perpetrators? Can you see the guys with the gun?
Shooting in North Carolina killed 3 members of a Muslim family.
French President Francois Hollande wasted no time in denouncing today's attack at the grocery store in Paris, where 4 hostages were killed, as an anti-Semitic attack.
Images of swastikas etched into the walls of the hallways at the University House apartments near UCF.
An Illinois man has been arrested for firing at a neighboring Muslim temple.
Mr. Jones, were you planning on burning those Bibles?
Did you think it was dangerous?
When a 17-year-old allegedly stood up in the cafeteria and opened fire.
I grew up in a small town in Florida, and I think there was one Jewish family, so I had really no contact in the Jewish world whatsoever. After college, I was a young lieutenant in the military in Germany. One Saturday, not far from where I was stationed, I went to Dachau. I had read stories about the atrocities, but being there and seeing the gas chambers and seeing photos of children and women and old people, you know, being killed was just an awful experience. And I think any good person in the world would react the same way I did.
The Holocaust Center began in 1980-81 as a project, a Holocaust project, and it was to bring to the attention of the public some of the issues of terrorism and anti-Semitism that were becoming dominant themes in the late 1970s and early 1980s.
The idea was to establish some kind of a base from which we could incorporate the history of the Second World War, meaning including the Holocaust, into the school curricula.
One of the most famous Holocaust survivors known to many is Elie Wiesel. One of his most famous statements is that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And taking from that theme, we understand that to build a community of inclusion doesn't necessarily mean you love everyone, but it means you're open to everyone.
A lot of times in current society, people have a hard time stopping and empathizing with what others are dealing with.
We at the Holocaust Center are all about justice, and certainly justice involving the events like the Holocaust, but civil rights.
We want to be the voice in this community to let people know that everyone who lives here belongs here, that they are our neighbors and our friends, and together we build community.
Every community needs one of these centers, because in the age that we live in, the age of the internet, where we see hatred all over the internet and stereotypes and people trying to demonize other people, we need organized effort like the Holocaust Center here to come up with effective programs to deal with those agendas of hate.
We need to be concerned about humankind, and that means participating and doing what's right to elevate the welfare of all human beings and all cultures all over the world.
We have a language now that we can talk about how genocide develops, and it's rooted in what we understand from the Holocaust. We also have a language of prevention, which is rooted as well in what we have learned from people who tried to stop the Holocaust, rescuers, those we refer to today as upstanders. So it's very important that we promote knowledge of this history so that we can have the dialogue about prevention that is required really to create that genocide-free future which we all desire.
I'm a Holocaust survivor, and I'm a witness what I saw. I was there.
The Holocaust can't be forgotten. It has to be out there in front of people forever.
I believe that teaching the Holocaust, teaching about the cruelties and injustices that occurred, is a lesson that cannot be ignored, should not be ignored, that it can persuade any individual of the importance of contributing to a moral society.
And what I do is for 30-some years, I go to school and talk about my experience. And a boy, he was 17 years old, and he wrote in the letter that, "I'll never forget what you told me, your story. I'll tell this to my great-grandchildren."
I think kids have to know these significant things that had to do with hatred and anger and violence and everything to be able to understand it so that they can change it.
I've only been coming here for the last 5 years, and I think about all the times before that, when I could have been here, even as a teenager, what I would have learned, some things, some choices I would have made or not made. I think it's that important.
All over the world, there are still issues of oppression, of genocide. And that's one of the things with the education forums that they have. It's not just focused on the Holocaust. It's on the broader picture of human rights.
People think, oh, it's never going to happen here, or it's never going to happen again, or we know better.
The one way that we can make sure that it cannot happen again is continue to educate people on what the precursors to genocide look like. That way people can speak up before it can happen again.
It doesn't rely on yesterday just as a matter of history, but it brings us to the subjects that matter today. While much of the world sleeps, is in silence, this institution awakens people.
This is critical work that needs to be done. It's probably more important than a lot of other things that we put our money into and our efforts into. This is something to do with us human beings. If we are ignored and neglected, we just drift away.